welcome, and I'm so glad you all came. Boy, this is just really great to see everybody. Just such a great... Terry, if he's here in spirit, he'd just be really so happy to see all of you. And I haven't done public speaking in a while. I used to be an instructor, but I haven't been up in front of people for a while, so just bear with me. Anyway, Terry, well, I'm going to just kind of talk through this slideshow here. I think that's the best way to do this. Who was Terry Cavanaugh? Just a taste of Terry first.
Okay, Terry, where are you?
Great Smoky Mountains.
The what?
Great Smoky Mountains.
Who's that?
Maryland.
It's 2012. We're in the Smoky Mountains, and it just rained, and we're at Fremont. It's beautiful.
Anyway, Terry loved Smokies more than anything, so I thought I'd just show that, a little bit of his personality. Terry loved nature above everything, and he loved people, and it showed in everything he did. So I'm just going to kind of go through the slideshow and talk through it. I think that's the best way to do this. He was nicknamed the professor because his life's passion was about teaching. I didn't find out much about his past before he came to Dayton. He didn't really want to talk much about it. And his life really began around 1980 when he came to Dayton and got involved in photography. And he graduated from the Ohio Institute of Photography. Then he got into commercial photography. And Bob Winter is here. Bob was his boss. He and Bob went everywhere. They were in all the businesses around town, all over Dayton, Cincinnati, this whole southwest Ohio area. They even went to Greenbrier. They were everywhere. So everybody in the city probably knows Bob and Terry. But I'm really impressed with Bob because anybody could have had that job. Everybody who's a hotshot young photographer would have loved this job, and Bob kept him until he was 67. So I'm proud of Bob. I'm also proud of Terry. Terry was heavily involved in camera clubs. His passion was teaching, so he got into the camera clubs, and I think he's been in every camera club in Cincinnati and Dayton at some time or another. But he started off in Cincinnati, and then came up here, and currently in Focus Photo Club, which probably half the people here are from Focus. He was vice president this year, and he was also chairperson for the last 3 years before this. So all of our programs at our meetings, he got the people to schedule to do the programs. And he also encouraged outings. So he led some outings. He encouraged other people to form groups to go out and photograph together. And I think Focus is an especially tight-knit group because of that. We do a lot of getting out together. And Focus Photo Club was really his family. And they've been my family, too. Going through all this with Terry, I don't know if some of you knew, but last year, about a year ago, he had a major stroke. And he recovered from that just fine. And he's been pretty good up until, really, just a month ago. But apparently he had a lot of blockages that we didn't know about, and that's basically what brought him down. Plaque got into his kidneys during a aorta bypass and kidney failure, basically. So anyway, as chairperson, let's start this over. Terry was also Photographer of the Year in 2008, and that's actually quite an accomplishment too. As the other Photographers of the Year who are here know, you have to come out on top of all the club, and we have anywhere from 100 to 150 people in our club usually. So he had to come out on top of everybody, and we have different judges, so you have to consistently be at the top, with the different judge biases. People like different things. So that was quite an accomplishment. How did Terry and I meet? We met in 1998. Actually, I would have walked right by him if it was 6 months before that. In 1997, one of my very best friends died of a brain tumor at 40. They ate right, they did everything right. They were the most wholesome people you could ask for, and he still died at 40 of a brain tumor. So I went into shock, and I decided it's time to smell the roses. You may not see 65. So I had sworn off photography a bunch of times already, because every time I tried to photograph anything, it didn't come out quite right. Or the film got lost, or the camera got stolen, or anyway, it's sworn off photography. And after Bart died, I decided for my birthday in October, I'm going to hit the full line. So I went to Click Camera back then. I got a great big camera and all the lenses and stuff. I got home and thought, what the heck was I thinking? I don't know what to do with all this stuff. So I returned it. Well, 6 months later, my dog, I had a wonderful Sheltie, and my dear dog, because of him, I never went to Cox anymore. Dogs aren't allowed at Cox. So my dog was sick that day, and I decided I'm going to go to Cox. I haven't been there in a while. Well, they had this fabulous display of tulips, thousands of tulips, and I was walking along the path, and I saw this photographer with the guard, the vest and all the gadgets, and I thought National Geographic was here. Such a spectacular display. So I went up to him and I said, "Are you a real photographer? Are you from National Geo?" There's a good one. So anyway, he was photographing a purple tulip, and years before I had a calendar, and I saw macro photography, close-ups of flowers. When I saw that purple tulip close up, I thought, oh my God, that's my link to being able to photograph like that calendar. And I told him I worked in computer stuff, and he thought, oh my God, there's my link to getting a website. So I teased. I fell in love with his camera, and he fell in love with my computer. We're a great match. And that fit all along. In most relationships, one person's the gas and the other person's the brakes. That was true of us. I would see a sunset, and I'd run out, and I'd have one shoe off, and I'd forget my driver's license, but I'd be at the sunset, but I wasn't ready for it. Terry, on the other hand, being a studio person, has to have the checklist. Do we have sandwiches? Do you have a blanket? Do you have Band-Aids? We're going to miss the sunset. So anyway, we had a lot of fun. An example of Terry's class. These are some of our dear friends. But anyway, he taught classes all over the place. Some were in, like this, a wine shop. Senior centers, nature centers, adult night school, colleges. He kind of was everywhere. Summer and Focus Photo Club. Oh, there's an interesting story about this. This was in Smokies, and he had spent the day with these gals the whole day, and afterwards they were at a restaurant with I guess there were some 80-some photographers. Every spring, I think it's like the third week of April usually, a whole bunch of photographers go down to the Smokies and we all photograph together. I stayed behind that year, and Terry went down and he was hanging out with these gals. So at dinner, what he meant to say was, I have my fill of these gals, when the waiter came up, he meant to say, like, would you like to, what are you doing later tonight? Would you like to have get together with some of these gals? But all that came out was, what are you doing later? And the whole place just broke up. No, he's not gay. This is Cox Arboretum, where we have our club meetings. Terry was always really big on tripods. he was a real stickler for making sure you had your tripod with you. And I got a real kick out of this because he was actually using the tripod from inside the car to photograph something. Here's Terry when he was younger. He didn't have many pictures of when he was younger. I finally found one. I don't know what he was hiding them for. He looks good. Anyway, there he is with his tripod. True to form. Some of his students have been outstanding photographers. In Cincinnati, he has a group he calls his Magnificent Seven. Photography was kind of dominated by men, and he came across his Magnificent Seven gals who he really worked with, and they became outstanding. That's the Cincinnati group. They became great wedding photographers, art shows, traveling all over doing art shows, books, all kinds of things. Working with semi-famous photographers. In Focus, Rosemary Ramsey was one of his favorite students, and she's become quite the photographer. And Terry Orff, I think it was this photograph. We have like a downtown Dayton contest, and I think it was this photograph that Terry got I don't know, Terry, are you here? Yeah, what place was it?
Best in Show.
Best in Show, yeah. So she's quite the photographer these days. In fact, Terry has her own studio now. And Linda Phillips has been working with Terry a lot. One of his favorite students. Her work is just gorgeous. And Christina Somerset. This gal is actually the one who dubbed him the professor. She was quite a character. But she would tease her because she says she has ADD. She's out in California now. But anyway, she was quite a challenge for Terry because he would set up a shot and she would just grab the camera and turn away, oh, a butterfly, So it was very frustrating because he was trying to get her to focus on things and she'd be all over the place. Oh, hi, there goes a bike. So she was a lot of fun to have around. She's really a character. She was known for her chocolates. And some more of her work. Actually, the picture of the trees here with the frost, this was Terry's typical character. Terry was trying to get that shot, and Christina wanted it, so he dropped everything and made sure she got the shot instead of getting it for himself. That's the type of person he was. Of course, me. Little story on myself. I was getting interested in wedding photography, so this is the type of thing he would do. He would try to make you feel special and encourage you in what you're interested in. There's a wedding photographer named Bambi Cantrell, who's a really good wedding photographer. So he was always referring to, so how's Bambi doing, that kind of stuff. That was so typical of him. He would find something that you're into and really encourage you. In the Smokies, we love these waterfalls. Roaring Fork, that's just a great place for waterfalls, especially in spring. And this one's at Hocking Hills. This is Upper Falls. That's another great place to go for waterfalls, near Athens, Ohio. And this is Libby's in Florida now. Ken Kenner. Ken is a special person. Ken was somebody Terry really poured himself into. Ken, where are you? There he is. Terry thought Ken was going to become the next most famous photographer like Freeman Patterson or John Shaw or Ansel Adams. He just thought the world of Ken. Still does, by the way. And when Ken started showing interest in his wife now, girlfriend back then, Terry was sad. He was saying, oh no, he's not going to be the great photographer I thought he was. He can't get married. They're saying, yes he can, he'll have a Sherpa. He'll have a little boy who'll carry all his equipment for him. This is Gene Kuhn's work. Beautiful. And Nancy Cristalier. This is Light Up Dayton downtown where they light up Cincinnati. They light up the buildings, and especially for photographers. Andy is another special person to Terry. He worked with Terry at Myers. Terry's had a second job for filling. And Andy was the expert in sports. I mean, he knew everything about sports. He and his wife, he met the perfect person because she's all about sports too. So Andy's wedding was at the Great American Ballpark, and Denise Martz and Terry and I photographed the wedding. It was a lot of fun to do a wedding at the ballpark. But anyway, he called Andy coach, again, encouraging him because he was interested in sports photography. So he always said, hey, how's coach doing? Well, Terry and I had gone to a football game. Terry always had a CBS Sports hat, and that got us in all kinds of places. He got me a Time Magazine hat. So between the Time Magazine and CBS Sports, we go to football games and say, we're photographing that guy over there. Oh, yeah, go ahead, go in. So we were always on the sidelines with the football players photographing. You know, watch the ball when it comes. Well, anyway, Andy was coach at Carlisle, and they hadn't been winning any games, so we decided to come to a game, and we played paparazzi. You know, we went in and photographed the players before the game and stuff. They won. You should have seen those guys play. They were playing like pros. That was the first game they won, and they slaughtered the other team. Of course, they were disappointed when they didn't see the pictures in the paper. And this is Michelle Schoenlever, and she's fairly new. She's one of Terry's last students, and her work is just outstanding. She's very creative. And Tim Hiley. Tim is a special person too. Tim was one of our themes for our club recently. He's just a natural for modeling, and we had a lot of fun with him this past year. Everybody was photographing him as everything under the sun, from you name it, jailbird to country singer to motorcycle guy to old photographer, you name it. It was a fun subject. But anyway, Tim is special because when Terry had his stroke, every day for 3 weeks, Tim was in the hospital with him, and that's the kind of person Tim is. Tim is there for everybody. He's always giving people mats for their pictures and taking care of everybody. He's another wonderful person. And Linda Madden. Linda is our sponsor tonight. She works here at the rec center and gave us permission to be here. This is a great place to have an event. But Linda's work is outstanding too. Tim in the corner there, this is from when Tim was a model for us all. That's up at the Reformatory. That was one of the outings. I'm telling you all this because I think our photo cover is great. We have so much fun together. Linda Dagley and Julie Luck. I love this picture. I think that's really great. And Pat McCarthy. Pat is our newsletter person, and I admire this picture because I tried to photograph the roseate spoonbills, and I can't get anywhere near them in Centerville. They're a million miles away. So how she got this close to one or got that great a shot, I don't know. And Marilyn Colondas. I think these are outstanding. And Carolyn Willis, one of his newer students. And Janet Bollinger. I think Janet was his last student. It seemed like the door was closing now that I look back because Terry's projector, he used slides because it takes forever to scan everything to digital. He has thousands and thousands of slides. So he was using his projector, and he had the club's projector too that we weren't using anymore. That last class, both his projector and the club's projector, and Tim brought over 2 more projectors, and those projectors all failed within the last couple weeks of the last class he taught. Kind of spooky. It's like the doors were closing. This is a junior flamingo. I didn't know flamingos had those kind of colors. Really pretty. He began teaching in Cincinnati, and again, his Magnificent 7. He was so proud of them. These gals, they were the world to him. But anyway, Carolyn, I think, is one of those Magnificent 7. I didn't have time to get pictures from all of them. And Carolyn had her work in the Marymount Art Barn, which is a very prestigious place in Cincinnati to have your art displayed. And of course, Joe Leah. Man, the myth, the legend. Joe Leah and his wife Andrea. Terry and I were very close friends. We did a lot together over the years. Joe was one of his students, and this is a GQ pose that they're doing. But Joe has really gone off and done a lot with Photoshop and some of these artistic things you can do with photography, and he's become quite the Photoshop pro. Some of our programs and outings, Terry had for the city, Canon Explorers of Light come in, and these are people who Canon has go out all over the place. They're their top photographers. And we had Arthur Morris, Adam Jones, George Lepp, and Louis Kemper come in. Louis Kemper came in last year. In fact, he was in this auditorium right here. Here's one of our most recent getting to know you parties. It was a St. Patrick's Day party. And we've done a lot of going to the Reds fireworks. That's a favorite outing. Middletown Balloon Challenge, that's another fun outing. Ken Kennard, he's usually the one sponsoring that outing. And that's usually, I think, in August. And here we are at the WEBN River Blast. That's fireworks again. Labor Day. And we'd like to go up to the Amish area and photograph the buggies up there, and Wiggerson and Cox are great for floral. We've had recently, last spring I think it was, or summer, somebody had connections with somebody who has like 40 vintage cars on their property. So they were nice enough to let our club come out and photograph the vintage cars, and we had people model for us. It was a lot of fun. River Downs was popular. Yellow Springs, that's a fun place with all the kind of hippiesville, all the bright colors and everything. But anyway, this is a group of us that went out and we were enjoying a day out. This middle picture, I don't know if you remember Third Rock from the Sun. What was his name?
John Lithgow.
The guy.
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow. That was his house in Yellow Springs. So we got to talk to the owner there and find out a lot about John Lithgow. But in Yellow Springs, you'll see a lot of wall painting, you know, kind of artistic graffiti, and the effect on the left is called liquefy. It make things look like they're melting or swirling. This is one of my favorite pictures, Dan Stewart. The train outing, that's another popular outing. The old trains in Covington, Kentucky, or Latonia, I guess, Kentucky. And here's Tim modeling. And another popular place, you'll see a lot of water lilies in all our competitions because kind of northeast of Dayton and Enon, there's this water lily store actually, and they have these troughs of water lilies. Great place to photograph. Look how close they are to the edge. They're fresh, no blemishes, just a photographer's dream out there. So that's why you see so many water lilies in all our stuff. And the Smokies. We all love the Smokies. What more can you say about that? Terry had a hat that was very special. He used to tease about if he was having a bad day and he couldn't get the shot, he'd have to resort to getting the John Shaw hat out. It's a hat like John Shaw, famous photographer, wore. So, you know, if he was getting desperate, his hands would get a little shaky, like, uh-oh, it's time for the John Shaw hat. So since Terry won't be wearing that John Shaw hat anymore, and Ken Kennard was his dream boy that he thought was going to be the next John Shaw, I think it's only appropriate to have Ken wear the John Shaw hat. So I'd like you to be the proud recipient of Terry John Shaw.
Yeah, the first time I remember Terry wearing that hat, he put that on right before we were about to head out to Clingman's Dome over in the Smokies in 2007. Of course, we didn't make it to Clingman's Dome because we saw a big, huge black bear and photographed it for like a half hour.
Oh yeah, Ken is the resident bear magnet.
Yeah, and so ever since then, the hat has gained reputation as the John Shaw hat, the lucky hat. And just like Lynn said, you know, anytime like if the light wasn't sweet enough or if we weren't getting the shots, Terry would say, all right, time to get out the John Shaw hat. We're going to do some shots now. Terry's taught me a lot about photography ever since we met. I mean, we met in 2006, but we really got to know each other starting in 2007 in the Smokies. I remember the first time I showed him like one of my landscape shots of the river, and he'd look at it and say, "Oh, that's really nice. But you should get that stick out of there. It's kind of distracting."
We're not talking a little twig, we're talking like huge branches, small trees.
Any stick. It was distracting. It was out there. There'd be times where I'd ask Terry to look at this flower I'm shooting. And he would say, "Oh, you should zoom in a little bit, get it tight, get it right." I won't carry very great memories of Terry that I always cherish. Like this John Shaw hat is one of them. Like our unexpected stop at Keeneland on our way down to the Smokies in 2007. That was a treat. Terry, Lynn, and I riding down to the Smokies in 2008 singing to Johnny Cash. The many times that Terry walked out in front of my camera and was like, "Oh, my undershot." Terry often would like to say, "Oh, I already got that shot. You're good. You can go home now." Many times I've heard Terry say, like before we're going to go out on an outing or go out and do anything fun, he would say, "All right, it's time to kick the tires and light the fires." We would go to concerts with Phrase together. Terry's cooking.
Oh yeah.
He can make some great barbecue ribs. And just going out to outings together, just hanging out, having lunch together by the river in the Smokies. And all the frequent phone calls he would make just randomly to me just to check on me and see how I'm doing. Terry's given me the gift of photography. I'll carry it out with me throughout my life. Every time I recompose a shot, to eliminate that distracting bright spot, every time I remove that stick, Terry will be there. It'll be in the very fabric of every photograph I take the rest of my life.
Yeah, Terry had a lot of these little sayings, which were in the cards you got passed out. He was just a real character. He just had a lot of personality. Little Terryisms, like the t-shirt out front. And that was Ken's t-shirt. We have an end-of-year banquet, and that t-shirt is something Ken put together for Terry. And everybody's always been reminded, where's your tripod? Where's your tripod? As soon as you get out of the car and you get your cameras, all right, I don't hear any shutters clicking, This is Clingman's Dome. Greenbrier, this was a fun spot. It's not as well known by people. There's some huge rocks. It's just a beautiful place. It's a little, where Gatlinburg is. It's before you get into Gatlinburg from Pigeon Forge. It's a turnoff. So if you're in the Smokies, you have to check out Greenbrier also. Oh, this. I wish Mary were here. I was with Mary, his sidekick from Cincinnati. Mary and Terry were students of Kashik Pazovsky, and that's where they both got their start in photography. They were his prized pupils. So anyway, I was with Mary and Terry, and we're looking for bears. That's a big thing to do in the Smokies with photographers. we gotta get some bears. So we were in the car in her van, and Terry and Mary get out, and they're out there with those people, and I'm still in the van with all the food in it, and the van is open, and this bear crosses the road and starts heading for the van. And I'm thinking, whoa, what do I do, you know? The bear's gonna come right by me. I can't jump out because I'm in the passenger side. But fortunately, he decided to go up a tree right there instead, so that was a close moment there. And the cabins and the Smokies are always fun. This person in the bandana and the orange jacket is Tony Sweet. That was Terry's photographic idol. Tony Sweet was in the Cincinnati Club with Terry, but soon became a famous photographer, writes books, has all kinds of programs all over the country. He was here recently. But the current thing now with photography is to try to make things look like art. You know, the add Photoshop effects, artistic effects through things called like Nik software or Topaz software. Tony Sweet, I think, started all that. He would jiggle the camera and do all these kind of blur type things with color. So a lot of that goes back, I think, to this Tony Sweet. The Blue Ridge Parkway. Oh, Ken already told the story, but these were not just little twigs. Terry was telling Ken to get out of the creek. I think it was here, there was just like a small tree in the way. And Ken spent, I don't know, about an hour trying to get that tree out of the creek so he could get the river a good shot. So Ken became famous for the cleanup. We call it housekeeping, getting rid of trees and things like that out of pictures. This was another spot at Hocking where Elvan's Cave, where another tree was removed by Ken. And Ash Cave, we all love Ash Cave. Oh, where Terry and I first ran into Focus, one of our first outings was at Hocking Hills. And this is when we decided this is the club for us. Tim, the one that did the modeling, knew somebody with a house in Hocking, and it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And 17 of us showed up in that 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. And somehow we all managed to cook and sleep together, and, you know, we had a big bonfire, and we were photographing each other in the flames, and it was just such a fun time. We really had a great time. They're kind of like sorority fraternity people, you know. Crone Conservatory is another favorite place to go. Keelan, Christina, the one that we call her the Brazilian, what did she call herself? The Brazil nut, that's right. The ADD one, she was so much fun. This is a great picture. I love the way the horse got into the shot. The attitude of both of them. More Keelan. Our club has a lot of things like getting to know you parties. One of the things we tend to do is take a picture frame and a backdrop and take pictures of each other, you know, like, you did just do different things with the frame. Western party, you name it. And these are some of Terry's other friends and mine. The bottom right, these are two very special people. The person on the left is Denny Krieger, and these are my 8th grade friends. Denny is in a band that is really taking off. They used to be called Thundermug years ago, and they're back again. If you're ever in Cincinnati, watch for Thundermug. They are a great, great band. And Roger, on the other side, was one of his students. Roger and Terry were double dating before I met them, and I found out Roger married one of my best friends, so they were best friends, and Debbie's one of my best friends, so small world, huh? More of the groups. This is another special group. Before I met Terry, this was sort of my group of friends. I met them through Southminster Presbyterian. It's a singles group, and kind of got together for a lot of parties together, and we were all workaholics back then, so this was our social life, getting together for parties. This was a New Year's Eve party, and they're some of the best people you'd ever want to meet. Terry at work, I like the one in the upper left. That's more Terry, the one with the cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Surfing.
Oh yeah, I have to talk about the surfing. Terry never surfed a day in his life. That was my learning Photoshop, and that became sort of an inside joke thing. Every time we went on an outing and we would show people pictures, we always had to follow it up with a picture of Terry surfing. So if we had been like someplace where there's practically no water, let me see. Okay, Keeneland. There's a little trickle of water before you get there. Well, we'd have to follow it up with, that's Terry surfing in that trickle of water outside of Keeneland. And then some of our favorite memories are out west. If you've never been to the Slot Canyons, this is just an amazing place to be. It's just incredible. The colors, some areas are actually like blue and purple, the rock. When you take the pictures, the stones will actually be just orange, yellow, purple, blue, amazing. It's in southern Utah. And my favorite place is Bryce Canyon. This is Wall Street. And I love this picture because it just shows you the size, the immensity of those rocks out there. It's so different than here. I just love being there. In Grand Canyon, I can't believe they have the walk that close to the edge. But, oh, Bright Angel Point, the sunset. I was out by the lodge here, and there's a walk that goes out to a point way out on the edge. And at one point, there's nothing, you know, it's just a drop off on either side. There's a stretch maybe 10 feet long where there's just nothing there. You have to walk across this and keep going to that lookout, Bright Angel Point lookout. Well, Terry wanted to stay there all the way to the end of the sunset, and I couldn't deal with that crossover thing there, so I left him. I'm like, if you want to fall off that in the middle of the night in the dark, go ahead, I'm leaving. This is one of our favorite campsites. This is a KOA right near Bryce Canyon. It's really a neat place. You've got the hoodoos all around it and everything. This is Florida. This was another favorite spot, right? That's Sanibel that you're looking at out in the distance. This is right before the bridge over to Sanibel. These are skimmers. They like to hang out on the sandbars, and there's thousands of them. You know, they're really something to watch. If you go out into the water and come toward them, they don't fly off. You can go right up to them. One of our trips was up to Michigan with Laura James and Donna, now me, and Cavanaugh Falls. If you ever get up to Michigan, that is an amazing waterfall. It's actually tannins from something, trees or whatever. It gives it that gold color. It really is that color. A little bit of Terry's art. Again, he was really into the water lilies. We all are. And this is Capitol Reef in Utah. Cute raccoon. The burrowing owls, if you ever are in Cape Coral, Florida, where they are is by a library there. It's off on Skyline Road near the library. These little owls go into the ground and pop up when you come out. They're amazing. They're the cutest little things. And the one over on the right, the screech owl, was up at Howell, Michigan. Howell has a raptor center, and they have several times a year you can go up there and photograph all their birds. They actually tether them so they don't fly away, but it looks very natural. They hide the tethers. Sports, oh, Terry Watson. He used to be our club president. Terry got us kind of media passes to get behind the scenes at the Mid-Ohio. the motorcycles, they have the Indies, I'm not up on the names of the cars. There's the motorcycles, the Indy cars. That's near Akron. That's a great place to go to photograph. It's just fun to try to get all those vehicles. And the bike races are down in Alt Park, Cincinnati. They're like every, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday in June. That's a lot of fun to photograph. The horses from Rolex, Kentucky. It's the third weekend in April. This is a 17-mile horse track where they have all these really interesting jumps that horses go over. It's sponsored by Rolex, but that's a good place to go to. And of course, Cincinnati in November, Blooming area, that's at Eden Park. If you like to see balloons lit up, that's a good spot. And of course, the air show. Terry or I managed to get air show passes just about every year, and we were in the press point. There's a kind of funny story here, a little sad, a little funny. A few years back, we were in the press point, and Bulldog, that's the year Bulldog crashed. And we were in the press area, and I was watching somebody's expensive equipment, and I think it was Terry said, it'd be good to get out of here before they tell us we can't go anywhere. So we left the press area, and I found the person whose equipment I was watching, so that was okay. So we were going back to the car, and we were just about back to our car at the press tree, and we ended up getting in the car going for a ride with the last stretch, you know, with the people that drive you back to your car. And we had just about gotten back when the Gestapo, the lady who's in charge, made us get out and wait. Well, this is when digital had first started coming out. I had digital, and Terry had both digital and his film camera. And I think it was Terry said, if you have a camera card, take it out and put it in your pocket and put a blank one in if you have pictures of that plane crash. Well, Terry was trying to discreetly rewind his film. And it's quiet, and there are all these photographers standing around, and you hear this brrrr. But the funniest thing was, his strap broke. Of all the time and places, we're standing there being watched, and his strap on his camera broke and dropped, and the film goes flying. Well, anyway, they held us for an hour. I don't know why, but that was an interesting experience. Pelicans from Florida, more water lilies, Smokies. Terry loved flowers. That's one thing that he photographed that I especially enjoyed. He just had a way with the flowers. His vision for art, amazing. And these are the Indy cars from mid-Ohio. And of course, my favorite place, Bryce Canyon. This is Thor's Hammer on the right. A good story on that one. People who are tourists come like 9 when the park opens. Photographers, you get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. You want to get there before the sun rises. You think you're the only person up in the world. You get into the entrance to Bryce, and you see a whole line of headlights in the dark flying at Mach 5. They're photographers. So we get to the parking lot, and everybody's scrambling in the dark to get their tripods and run down to this spot by Thor's Hammer, and you see these little shadows of people in the very pale light, all these people lining up their cameras, and the excitement, you know, it's like watching a birth or something. The sun starts coming up, and you just hear this, sounds like machine gun fire, you know, all these cameras just clicking away. The sunflower fields over by Yellow Springs, that's a lot of fun to photograph too. Anyway, Linda Dagley put this together, and it's very nice. I think Terry always talked about the sweet light in photography, and she found this about the eternal sweet light. If you could see me now, you wouldn't shed a tear. Though you may not understand why I'm no longer there, remember my spirit that is the real me, because it's still very much alive. I've just been set free. Oh, if you could only see. I have beheld our Father's face, and I've touched my Savior's hand. All of heaven's angels rejoiced as I entered the promised land. I just just have to comment about as Terry passed. When I was in the hospital, a few hours before he passed away, I came in and he couldn't move his legs. He wanted me to see if I could massage his leg because I guess he had a cramp in his leg, but he couldn't move his legs. And he was in a lot of pain. So I started praying for a miracle. You know, I thought, I'll give it my last shot. And I just started crying out to God for a miracle to bring him back, you know. But as I was doing that, he just relaxed. And I said, is the pain going away? And he said, yeah. And then he relaxed more. And is the pain going away? And he said, yeah. And then he kind of put his head back, and his eyes kind of half open, and he got this kind of smile. And I've never experienced anything like this before. It was like everything just stopped. The air got very still, and there was light. I mean, I could actually almost see like a light there. The air got light and very, very still and bright. You know, just this bright, cheerful feeling. And I thought, he's dying. Why is it bright and cheerful? I actually feel up. I don't understand this. So that's my most spiritual experience I've ever witnessed, because there actually something happened there, you know. And I think he's with, I think he's in a good place. I really do. And I put this on Facebook. I don't know how many people know about this. Tuesday after he passed away, I was just, you know, you hear things, you read things. I know what the Bible says, yeah, we're going to be in heaven, blah, blah, blah. But when the rubber hits the road, you know, you're like, okay, what really happens? You know, what? So I was just in my living room and I said, Terry, I know what we're told, but if you have any awareness of me, could you just let me know that you still are and that you're okay, if you are aware of me? Well, that afternoon I went to Cox Arboretum where we met, and I sat on a bench where we met, and it happened to be Snavely. We photographed the Snavely wedding together. That was cool. So I sat there for a while, and I went back to my car, and I almost stepped on a red rose. It was weathered for a few days. I've never seen a single red rose in my life anywhere, ever. And I almost stepped on this rose. And when I got home, I'm watching TV, and the last card I gave him for his birthday was, that has a single red rose on it. And I thought, wow, that's kind of a coincidence, you know. Well, a few days later, a friend of mine, Linda Phillips, she said, you're not going to believe this. A week before his surgery, we gave him his old cameras. He has an antique collection, gave them to Linda. She put them in a curio cabinet, and she also has one of Terry's dad's lamps. Well, they had been out for the day at Crone and came back, and while they were making dinner, Linda said the light went out over Terry's cameras and also in his dad's lamp. Not anything else, just those two things that belong to Terry. So, what does that mean? I don't know, you know, but I like to think that maybe life is a little bit like the movie Ghost. Maybe before we become whatever else, maybe we get to say goodbye to people. Maybe we get to float around and do some unfinished business first before we take off to wherever we go next. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I really think he's here tonight because of that. Maybe he hasn't taken off yet. Maybe he's here with all his friends. And if anybody would like to add anything.
Thank you, Lynn.
If anyone would like to make comments, I will walk this to you, or you're welcome to come forward, whatever is your preference.
Okay, Lynn said she's not great at public speaking. I'm really not. And I remember a couple years ago, Terry had me get up in front of Focus and share a little bit about my vision and why I do what I do. And he said to me in his great wit and humor, he said, it's okay, Linda, just speak from your heart. Don't be shy. Because that was the way he was. He just always had that smile on his face, and he was so encouraging. I met Terry a little over 3 years ago. through Christina Somerset. She kept talking about this wonderful professor friend of hers, and one night he came to a tripod meeting, and she was so excited, and she said, Linda, the professor's here, and you need to sit next to him, and you're going to be great friends, I just know. So Terry sat with me, and we chatted, and by the end of the night, I thought, this guy is so cool. I really want to work with him and get to know him. And we became quick friends. And I will so miss the outings and the breakfasts and the lunches and the phone calls. He would call me and say, is this Linda Phillips, the famous photographer? He was my cheerleader, and I know many of you out there have the same wonderful feelings and emotions about our friend and our mentor. Recently, Teresa Jack shared a quote on Facebook, and it really rang true for me. Glasses on. It said, friendship is not about who you've known the longest. It's about who walked into your life and said, I'm here for you, and proved it. Terry, he was that friend to me. He was just so warm and passionate about what he did. I so was amazed by him. Every student that he worked with, he would reiterate the same wonderful message. He was so patient and kind, and one of the most humble people I've ever met. And you know, every email that he would send to me, he would have a little quote at the bottom that said, what tomorrow will I wish I had done today? And that's what I'd like to leave with you. What a great message for all of us, just to go out there and do the most every day. Be kind to everyone with a smile on your face, and try and be patient, realizing that we all are going through something in our life. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak that I can bring the microphone to?
Where?
What is this, a board meeting?
We have something for Lynn, and Ann found this, and the rest of us went in with her to get it, because it reminds us of Terry. Why don't you open it, and then I'll tell you why we thought this was an appropriate gift. Statue of St. Francis, and because of Terry's love of nature and he has a lot in common with St. Francis, with the love of animals and nature and his kindness and gentleness and so on. So we thought this would be something for you that would help you remember Terry.
Yeah, you know, life is supposed to be about love. I think that's that's where I'm at right now. You wonder, what's life all about? I think it's about learning how to love. And what is love? Well, Terry and I used to tease about this. I wouldn't say I love you because you're supposed to love your enemies. So I had to come up with something better than that. You're supposed to love Hitler. So anyway, I told him, I really, really like you. You know, you have to love everybody, but you like your friends. So I really, 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 really like you. So we used to tease about that. But anyway, Terry really was the embodiment of love. Love is supposed to be patient. He was extremely patient with everybody. Love is supposed to be kind. I am overwhelmed with on Facebook and emails how kind everybody thought he was, and patient and gentle, how gentle he was.
We didn't just think he was, he was.
Yeah, he was.
It sounded like he thought he had to school.
And humble, yeah, he never tooted his own horn. He made sure other people tooted his horn. So he just seemed like he never spoke about it. He just lived it, and he was just a great, great, great example of how to live a life. So.
Can I say some more? Okay. Well, I first met Lynn and Terry when they came to the first photo club meeting. And then we went to, I don't know if we went to Roosters or somewhere afterwards, and I went over and talked to him. And then soon after that, we went to the house that Lynn was talking about near Hocking Hills, where we had about 17 or 18 people there with one bathroom. So we really got to know each other. That was when I really got to know Lynn and Terry. And then the next fall, we had a camping trip at Hocking Hills. Lynn ended up sleeping in the car because it was too cold. But we had several tents. And Ken and Kathy and Tim and Tom Ending, and I think that was maybe about it. But we had a real good time that weekend. And then all the shoots we went on. And I used to shoot a Pentax K1000 film camera for years. And of course, that was all manual, so I knew how to set all the settings. Well, then when I got the digital camera, I shot all the time on auto because I didn't know how to, I knew what settings I wanted to set, but I didn't know how to set them. And Terry was always after me to get off from auto. So finally I took his class, so he's got me shooting mostly, not aperture priority, aperture priority. And I think my pictures are better now. 2 years ago, Lynn and Terry were in Florida for the winter. And some of us went down, my nephew and his wife and Tim Hiley and I went down to Florida. And Tim was with his dad, and I went to Centerville with Lynn and Terry, and we had a lot of fun that day. I saw a picture you took that day, that heron up in the nest, yeah. Then the next day, Lynn went somewhere with her mother, and Terry and I went to Corkscrew Swamp, and we got to see we got good pictures of an owl catching a snake, or a hawk catching a snake, and different things, so that was fun. And then that weekend, we got Tim, and we got my nephew and his wife, and Lynn and Terry, and the six of us all went to camp at the Everglades, at the campground there. And I think Lynn slept in the car again. They had a tent, but it was probably the coldest day they've ever had at the Everglades. We were freezing. And I was down there a couple weeks ago and it was 88 degrees. It was too hot then. So anyway, that's a really good memory of them. And I used to talk to Lynn and Terry on the phone 2 or 3 times a month. We'd call, and they had this magic jack so we could all talk at once. And I was really glad that Terry called me the night before he went in for his surgery, and we talked for quite a while. And when he called me, he wouldn't ask if it was the famous photographer. He'd say, "Is this the famous children's writer, Pat McCarthy?" And I'd say, "Yes, is this the famous Professor Cavanaugh?" And he'd say, "Yes." So he always said, he said, "You're okay, Pat. I don't care what they say." So when he had his stroke last year, I went in the day after the stroke, and he couldn't talk yet, but he smiled when I came in, and I said, "Terry, you're all right. I don't care what they say." And he had a big grin, and I thought, he's in there, he's going to be okay. So that was neat. And then last night when Nancy Roach was giving her program about cemeteries and epitaphs, I was thinking if Lynn had gone first and Terry had been writing the epitaph, he would have put, "There she goes without her tripod."
That's out of the bag now.
I'm Rosemary Ramsey, and first of all, I want to thank Lynn for giving me the honor of being called one of Terry's most outstanding photography students. I hope someday I live up to that. As you know, I'm from this area. I have no family here, and my friends become my family. And Terry's kind of like my big bad brother, and he behaved very badly most of the time. Always tried to get in trouble and was cantankerous and always harassing me about different things. But I thought since he's my big brother, I want to do something very nice for him. So, I need the Professor Bitch approach here. I established a scholarship in Professor Cavanaugh's name. At Wright State, and is the Professor Terry Cavanaugh Outstanding Professor of Photography Scholarship at Wright State. And they're going to award it to a student of photography soon. So we're going to have a big celebration for that. And it's not millions of dollars, but it's enough to feed a starving photographer. I know that. Okay. And if anyone wants to contribute, let me know, and we will put lots of bucks in this thing for Terry. Thank you.